Hopefully, as an owner or manager of a contracting company that may not have the resources available for a robust HSE department, you've taken a few minutes to view the benefits of an effective health, safety, and environmental program video, explaining the reasons why a compliant program would benefit your company and employees. Now that you've done that, you're probably asking yourself, what's the next step? How can I start or get assistance in building these effective programs? During this video, I'm going to take you through an exercise where we'll build an actual safety program. We'll go from start to finish, explaining what sections should be included in a compliant program. And you'll begin to see that the task of building a program or set of programs to meet your company's safety needs doesn't have to be a burden to you, your company, or your resources. And a key point to always remember as you build or acquire programs is that the programs you choose to implement should be specific to the actual work and tasks that are performed by your employees. Nothing more needs to be included, and just as importantly, nothing less. Before we push ahead, let's talk about time and resources. If one or both of these have been holding you back, there are places where you can get help at little or no cost. For example, your province's occupational health and safety website has plenty of information to assist you. Also visit Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety at www.ccohs.ca. At these websites, you'll find many of the tools and directions you'll need to aid your company's goal of putting an effective program in place. Now, as we begin building a program, let's discuss certain requirements that should be included in every program developed. An effective program must contain management commitment and employee involvement, an overarching HSE policy written and endorsed by your company's senior management, tools such as assessment for identifying hazards specific to the work you will be performing, and provisions to provide and document employee training. And to ensure the program is successful, an effective program should explain work procedures that will keep your employees safe, be specific to work your company actually performs, be written and available to all employees, and be effectively implemented throughout your company. We're now ready to take you through the exercise of building a personal protective equipment program for our model landscaping company Sample Lawn Services. Let's start by covering 5 key sections of a typical HSE program. Each program should start with a purpose. The purpose can be as simple as one sentence that explains to your employees why this program is in place and why it's important to both the company and their safety. The next section is called the scope. The scope explains who in your company is covered and needs to comply with the procedures listed within this program. That's followed by a section titled Definitions. That lists any unfamiliar words or terms within the program, as well as the routine and non-routine tasks listed that employees may or may not be required to perform. This helps employees understand what they should and should not be doing. The fourth section, titled Procedures, is usually the largest section of the program and includes the step-by-step requirements employees must follow to comply with the program, such as identifying the visible and potential hazards associated with the task they are about to perform, assessing the PPE requirements necessary to perform the work safely, explaining and ensuring employees understand the company's emergency preparedness and first aid procedures, reinforcing the company's health and safety rules, as well as consequences in place for non-compliance, and then listing and providing training requirements that are offered to the employee so they can perform work in a safe manner. And finally, an effective program should include a references section, guiding employees to either regulatory or company links that will provide them further information on this specific topic. Okay. Now that we've covered the key sections that should be part of your company's program, let's give you some background on your model company. Sample Lawn Services is a landscaping company that conducts residential lawn services, including mowing, trimming of both edges and hedges, and cleanup. The company consists of 15 employees, which includes 2 supervisors. And important to note, tree trimming, which would require another set of safety programs, such as working at heights, is not a routine function of this company. Let's start at the beginning and develop our company's purpose. The purpose of the Sample Lawn Services Personal Protective Equipment Program is to ensure all employees have proper PPE, prior to completing their assigned work tasks. That's it. That's our purpose. Short and sweet, and to the point as well. Anyone reading this will know why this specific program was written. Now let's move on and add our scope to the program, which will explain who needs to comply with this program requirement. This PPE program covers all company personnel at all levels, including management. Again, short, sweet, and to the point. Well, one important thing to note is that both employees and management are required to comply with this program. This is important as employees tend to follow the example set by their supervisors. Now it's time to include our company-specific definitions section, which will include an explanation of any unfamiliar terms or acronyms used, as well as a description of both the company's routine and non-routine tasks. Sample Lawn Services doesn't have any unfamiliar terms or acronyms, but it does list out their routine and non-routine tasks. Definitions. Routine tasks are common tasks that are conducted during lawn care services such as lawn mowing, line trimming, and hedge trimming. Non-routine tasks are those tasks that are not conducted on a regular basis, such as mowing on steep grades or tree trimming. When performing these non-routine tasks, there must be a supervisor approval, hazard identification, and additional training in PPE as required. Again, in Sample Lawn Services case, the definitions section alerts employees to tasks they are expected to complete, and more importantly, those that are out of their normal scope of work, such as mowing on steep grades or trimming trees. To complete these tasks, there will need to be supervisor approval and additional training prior to the beginning of non-routine tasks. We're now ready to get into the meat of the program, the procedures section, which lists the actual PPE program requirements. This form is one of many simple examples that are available on various websites. As we look at a form, you can see we start by listing the job that is taking place. In this case, it's lawn trimming. And the first step for Sample Lawn Services is to conduct a hazard assessment to get a better understanding of what PPE will need to be required. This assessment shouldn't be a difficult task to complete if the person performing it understands what hazards are or could be present. The first step in completing a hazard assessment form is to fill in the top line listing the job to be performed, the name of the assessor, and the date the assessment was performed. Following that, the assessor needs to give a description of the actual task that's about to take place. And then, based on the task description, those hazards associated with that task need to be listed. And finally, the controls that need to be implemented to protect employees from identified hazards need to be addressed. Now let's move on to the procedures section of our program. This is the section that will probably take the most work. Based on the work our model company, Sample Lawn Services, performs, they have come up with 11 specific requirements that need to be included in their company's PPE program. Those requirements can be listed in the following manner, and for the most part are pretty self-explanatory. Procedures. A hazard assessment shall be conducted prior to starting work. As discussed before, the first procedure states that a hazard assessment needs to be completed before starting any work. The assessment will dictate what PPE will be needed to safely perform the task at hand. And based on the assessment, the company will provide eye, head, face, foot, hand, and body protection as needed. Required PPE will be provided at no cost to all applicable employees. Your program should ensure that your company will provide that proper PPE and, if necessary, replacement PPE at no cost to the employee. All PPE provided will meet the applicable CSA standards and properly fit each employee. The PPE provided needs to meet all regulatory standard requirements for safety. Employees are responsible for maintaining PPE in a clean, sanitary, and reliable condition. Employees must need to understand that since they are the user of the PPE, they have a responsibility to maintain their PPE in good working order. Employees will return damaged or broken PPE to their supervisor, who will replace it prior to employee returning to work. Employees must also understand that if their PPE fails for any reason, they must return it and get replacement PPE in good working order prior to continuing to work. The company prohibits the use of employee-owned PPE. Therefore, only PPE purchased by the company is allowed. The company must allow PPE purchased in-house to be used on the worksite to ensure the PPE meets regulatory standards. Company will ensure that the documented training will be provided to each employee who is required to wear PPE to include when and where PPE is necessary, what PPE is necessary, how to properly put on, take off, adjust, and wear PPE, the limitations of PPE, and the proper care, use, maintenance, useful life, and disposal of the PPE. The company needs to ensure that employees are trained in the proper use and care of PPE they're initially given, and like all employee training, this training is documented and stored for safekeeping. Employees will be retrained on PPE usage whenever they are not able to demonstrate their understanding of the PPE requirements or the ability to use it properly, and when there is changes in the types of PPE or work environment that render the previous training obsolete. The company also needs to ensure that employees are retrained when there is a misunderstanding in the usage or change in the type of PPE supplied by the company. Disciplinary measures. Employees who choose not to follow the safety and health rules of the company will be disciplined. Discipline will be progressive up to and including termination. Supervisors who are found accountable for employee actions will be disciplined according to their level of accountability. Employees and supervisors need to be made aware of their accountabilities when it comes to following or implementing the company's rules and regulations for working safe. Program review. All company safety and health programs will be reviewed and updated as needed, but no less than annually. There needs to be a process for the company to periodically review safety and health programs to ensure their applicability to the tasks performed. And finally, we get to the last section of the company's PPE program titled References. This is where a company supplies their employees with further information and tools on the safety topic covered. We hope this exercise in building an effective health, safety, and environmental program has been of benefit to you and your company. This format shown in this video can be duplicated for almost all programs required by your province's OHS legislations. Now, some key points to remember are: keep your program specific to the work you perform. Utilize the resources mentioned in this video to assist or provide needed tools. And finally, ensure implementation and training of the programs that you develop are documented and stored for safekeeping. Thank you again for taking the time to view this video.